The mid-afternoon sun beat down, turning the bustling street into a shimmering haze. Amidst the lively chaos, at a vibrant corner, stood Mama Charity's kitchen, a small local eatery bustling with patrons. Inside, the owner's two daughters, Faith and Natasha, were diligently serving customers. Faith, the younger sister, moved with a gentle grace, her voice always soft and polite to every customer. Her older sister, Natasha, was a stark contrast, loud, sharp-tongued, and fiercely focused on efficiency. "We are here for business, not for charity," Natasha would often declare, her eyes scanning for any perceived waste of time or money. They were in the thick of the lunch rush when a figure appeared at the restaurant's entrance. An old woman, her movements slow and weary, stood just outside the doorway. Her faded wrapper and worn slippers told a silent story of hardship as she quietly watched the diners within. "Please, my daughters," she murmured, her voice thin but gentle. "I haven't eaten since yesterday. I'm so very hungry. Could you please spare some food for me?" Natasha spun around, her eyes narrowing. "Look at this woman," she exclaimed, her voice cutting through the restaurant's chatter. "Do we look like a charity home to you? If you're hungry, go and find work." The old woman didn't respond, her gaze dropping to the floor, her frail form remaining motionless by the door. Faith's eyes moved from the old woman's slumped figure to her sister's hardened face. She clearly disapproved of Natasha's harsh words. "Sister, please don't be like that," Faith pleaded softly. Natasha shot her a warning look, a frown creasing her forehead. "Don't even start. Go ahead and give her food if you wish, but be prepared to explain to Mama why you're feeding beggars with her money." Ignoring her sister's threat, Faith quietly walked to the back of the kitchen. With careful hands, she scooped a small portion of rice and beans, added a ladle of rich stew, and topped it with a modest piece of meat. Placing it neatly into a disposable plate, she carried it out to the waiting woman. "Here you go, Ma," Faith said kindly, extending the plate. "Please eat." The old woman's frail hands trembled as she took the plate. Her eyes, filled with profound gratitude, met Faith's. "Thank you, my daughter," she whispered, a tear perhaps glistening. "You did not reject me. May heaven never reject you." "Amen, Ma," Faith responded, her own heart touched. Natasha, who had been shaking her, head in silent disapproval, hissed loudly as the old woman slowly shuffled away. "Nonsense," she muttered, loud enough for Faith to hear. "Just wait until we get home. I'll tell Mommy exactly what you did. She warned us specifically not to waste food on beggars." Faith merely shook her head. "I wouldn't care if that woman were my own mother or grandmother," she retorted. "Would I let her go hungry?" Natasha rolled her eyes, a look of exasperation on her face. "You always act like a saint," she scoffed. "Keep helping poor people and see where that gets you." Later that evening, after the last dish was washed and the kitchen meticulously cleaned, the two sisters made their way home. Their mother, Mama Charity herself, sat in the small living room, engrossed in the evening news. Natasha wasted no time in launching her complaint. "Mommy, do you know what Faith did today?" she blurted out, her voice accusing. Faith looked away, disinterest clearly etched on her face, bracing herself for the inevitable drama. "She gave our food, your food, to that dirty beggar woman who always passes by the restaurant." Mama Charity slowly sat up, her gaze shifting to Faith. "Faith, is this true?" Faith nodded slowly, her eyes meeting her mother's. "Yes, Mama, it's true," she admitted quietly. The woman looked so hungry and weak. I simply couldn't let her leave like that. Mama Charity rose from her seat and walked deliberately towards Faith. "Faith, come here," she instructed softly. Faith, expecting a sharp reprimand or even a slap, braced herself. But instead, her mother reached out, gently touched her cheek, and offered a warm smile. "You have a good heart, my daughter," Mama Charity said, her voice filled with pride. "That's exactly how I raised you. I would have done the very same thing. The food we give to others is never wasted. God sees it all." Natasha's jaw dropped in utter shock. "Mama," she stammered, "so you're supporting this rubbish?" "Yes," Mama Charity declared firmly. "Don't ever chase away a hungry person again." "Natasha, what if it was an angel? In disguise?" Faith smiled, a quiet sense of vindication warming her. It was another scorching afternoon. Mama Charity had gone to the market, and Natasha had left early that morning to visit her boyfriend. This left Faith alone to manage the restaurant. Business was uncharacteristically slow, with only a handful of customers trickling in throughout the day. By 2 o'clock, the restaurant was quiet, nearly empty. Faith sat on a wooden bench at the back, diligently peeling onions, when a soft knock echoed from the front door. She rose and walked to the entrance. Standing there was the same old woman. "Mama," Faith said gently, a recognition in her voice. "You're here again?" The old woman nodded slowly, her eyes downcast. "My daughter, please forgive me," she began, her voice tinged with apology. "I know I've come before. You've already helped me with food, but today I need a small amount of money. My landlord is threatening to throw me out. Just a little to add to what I already have." Faith looked at her, her heart already softening. "How much do you need, Ma?" she asked. "Only 200 naira, my child," the woman replied. "I already have some. I just need that small bit to complete the rent." Faith glanced at the small wooden box tucked beneath the counter. She had only made 1/500 naira that day, and Mama hadn't left any change behind. It wasn't much, but Faith's compassionate heart couldn't say no. She carefully counted out 200 naira and folded the notes. "Take it, Ma," she said, extending the money. "I pray it helps you." Tears welled in the old woman's eyes. She stretched out her hands, collecting the money with both palms, clutching it tightly. "Thank you, my daughter," she sobbed, her voice thick with emotion. "May heaven repay you. May your children never beg. May your husband bless you. Thank you." Faith smiled genuinely. "Amen. Please rest well." The old woman walked away slowly, her steps lightened, the money clutched in her hand like precious gold. Minutes later, Natasha stormed into the restaurant, a small plastic bag clutched in her hand. "Faith, where's the money?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "I need 2,000. Faith looked up, confused. "For what?" "To buy food stuff," Natasha snapped. "Chuka's coming over and he asked me to cook, but there's nothing at home." "Ah, sister," Faith sighed, a wave of apprehension washing over her. "I didn't even make up to 2,000 today. I only made 1,500. "Then give me that!" Natasha shouted, her patience wearing thin. "I can't," Faith confessed softly. "I already gave out 1 to 200. "What?" Natasha shrieked, her voice echoing in the quiet restaurant. "To who?" Faith hesitated for a moment. "That old woman came again," she explained. "She said she needed it to complete her house rent." Natasha dropped her bag to the floor with an angry thud. "Are you mad? So that your useless beggar friend is now more important than me? I told you my boyfriend's coming, and you gave our money to a stranger." She's not a stranger, Faith said calmly, her voice steady despite Natasha's outburst. She's an old woman in need. I had to help. Shut up, Natasha barked, her eyes blazing. Where is the money? I told you I gave it to her, Faith repeated. Liar, Natasha snapped, her face contorted with fury. You and that old beggar friend of yours, useless people, so now you're keeping our money for her, are you? You think you're a saint, huh? Faith stood her ground, her gaze unwavering. You're wrong, sister. I'm wrong, Faith? Natasha scoffed, disbelief lacing her voice. You gave money to a nobody when I needed it for my own home, for my man. Chuka doesn't even help you, Faith said softly, her voice carrying a hint of weariness. He has no job. He doesn't give you anything. And yet, every time, you're using Mama's money to cook for him. Say that again, Natasha shouted, taking a step closer, her fists clenched. Faith shook her head. Sister, I didn't mean it as an insult. I'm just tired of seeing you suffer because of someone who doesn't care. Natasha hissed, her eyes narrowing. You think you're better than me, right? Because you gave one beggar food and money. Let me see what that will bring to your life. She stormed out angrily, leaving the restaurant door wide open, letting the afternoon air rush in. Faith sighed, her shoulders slumping, and walked back to the counter. That evening, when they finally arrived home, the house was initially quiet. Mama Charity sat on her old plastic chair in the living room, resting her tired legs, when Natasha burst in, her eyes blazing with fury. Mama, can you imagine what Faith did again today? Natasha exclaimed, dropping her handbag onto the table with a thud. What is it this time? Mama asked, not yet looking up. She gave all the money we made at the restaurant to that same useless old woman again, Natasha continued, her voice rising. All the money, Mama. Everything. Mama Charity's head snapped up sharply, her eyes wide with disbelief. What did you just say? Natasha folded her arms across her chest. You heard me. Ask her yourself. She didn't keep one naira. She gave it to that dirty beggar. Just then, Faith walked in from the backyard, pausing as she saw their accusatory gazes fixed upon her. Faith! Mama Charity shouted, her voice booming. Come here right now. Tell me it's not true. Tell me you didn't give out everything you sold today. Faith hesitated, then spoke softly, her voice barely a whisper. She said her landlord wanted to throw her out. She needed the money to complete her rent. Mama stood up abruptly, her face reddening. And you gave her everything? All the money? I couldn't leave her like that, Mama, Faith pleaded, her eyes welling up. That's enough, Mama shouted, her voice cracking with anger. You will stop going to my shop from tomorrow. You want to ruin my business for me? How foolish can you be? Faith's eyes watered, but a spark of defiance flickered within her. Mama, I was just trying to help. Don't talk, Mama snapped, cutting her off. You're just like your foolish, useless late father. Faith's eyes widened, and something deep inside her snapped. Don't ever talk about my late father like that again, she said, her voice rising slightly, quivering with indignation. He was not useless. Mama Charity turned slowly, her expression a mixture of shock and disbelief. You dare talk back at me? Yes, Mama, Faith affirmed, her voice now steady. I won't let you keep calling. My father names. He's dead. Respect him. Natasha let out a bitter laugh. So, you now raise your voice at Mama You must be sleeping with men now. That's where you're getting this boldness." Faith turned sharply, her gaze piercing Natasha's. "That's a lie! I'm not like you that give our food and money to your useless, jobless boyfriend," Mama Charity gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "What?" Natasha stumbled back, her face paling. "You're mad, Faith!" "No, I'm not!" Faith snapped, tears now streaming down her face. "Mama, every day she steals from the shop to cook for Chuka. That man doesn't work. He lies down all day eating our food. And you say, I'm the foolish one?" Natasha's defiant expression crumbled, replaced by fear. "So, now you want to spoil my name, too?" "I'm saying the truth," Faith cried. "You called me useless, but at least I helped a hungry woman. You give money to a man who is supposed to take care of you. How foolish can you be?" Mama Charity sank back onto her chair slowly, her face etched with profound shock. "I thought Faith was bad," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "But you are worse. So both of you have been doing nonsense behind my back." Natasha hissed, her bravado completely gone, and quickly walked away into the bedroom. "I won't stay here and be insulted," Natasha declared, retreating toward the bedroom. Faith stood perfectly still, her eyes red and strained from holding back tears. Mama Charity rubbed her forehead, a weary sigh escaping her lips. "I can see you girls don't want the best for me," she lamented, her voice tinged with self-pity. "I struggled alone to raise you since your father died. Instead of helping me, both of you are turning against me." "I'm sorry, Mama," Faith said quietly, her voice still hoarse. "But I won't keep silent when you insult my father. He wasn't perfect, but he loved us. I fed you, clothed you, paid your school fees," Mama Charity countered, her voice rising slightly. "Yes, Mama, and I'm grateful," Faith replied, her voice firm. "But please stop saying he was useless." A tense silence hung in the air for a moment. Then, Mama Charity stood up, her expression hardening. "I want both of you to leave my house tomorrow morning." Faith was stunned. "Mama?" "I need peace," Mama Charity stated, her voice cold. "Get out. Go and live with the people you're defending. You want to be bold? Go and be bold somewhere else." Meanwhile, the old woman sat on the edge of a small bed in her modest room, her back leaning slightly against the plain wall. Beside her, on a small table, sat a cup of cold tea and her phone. Her son had called 5 times that day, but she hadn't answered because she wasn't ready. Now, the phone rang again. She looked at the screen. It was him she picked up. "Mama," Leonard's voice came through, sounding worried from the other end. "Where are you?" "I'm fine," she answered calmly. "Mama, that's not what I asked," Leonard insisted. "I said, where are you?" "I told you I'm somewhere," she replied, her tone unwavering. "Mama, don't do this," Leonard pleaded. "You've been gone for weeks now. You won't say where you are. You barely answer my calls. What's really going on? I just want you to come home." "I'm coming," she said. "When?" he pressed. "Soon." "Mama, what are you even doing?" Leonard's frustration was evident. "You left the house like a thief in the night. No message, no explanation, just a call 2 days later saying, 'I'm fine.' And now every time I ask, you say the same thing. 'I'm fine. This is not fine.' I'm on a mission," she replied simply. Leonard was silent for a few seconds, then said, "A mission? What mission?" "I'm doing something important." "For who?" Leonard asked, confused. "For you? What does this have to do with me?" "Everything." Leonard sighed deeply. "Mama, I don't understand you." "You don't need to understand right now," she said. "You just need to be patient." Mama, please come home, Leonard implored. You said you were going for 2 days. It's been more than 3 weeks now. I know. Where are you even staying? A friend's place, she replied. Which friend? You don't know this one? Leonard sounded annoyed now. I don't know this one. Since when do you have new friends I don't know about? I met her a while ago. She has a small room. She allowed me to stay for a few days. Are you eating well? Do you have your BP medicine? Your sugar pills? Leonard rattled off his concerns. I'm fine. Mama, you keep saying that, but I'm not comfortable. You're not young anymore. What if something happens to you? Nothing will happen to me. Leonard was quiet again, a long pause stretching between them. I just want to know you're safe, he finally said, his voice softer. I am safe. I don't know the games you're playing, Mama. I really don't, Leonard confessed, a hint of sadness in his tone. But I miss you. The house is empty without you. Even the gateman keeps asking when you'll come back. I miss you too, Leonard. Then come home. Not yet. Mama, you are scaring me. Don't be scared. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not sick. I'm not dying. I'm just looking for something. For what? A real heart. Leonard's voice dropped. A real heart? Yes. I don't understand. You will later. He didn't respond. Just give me a few more days, she said softly. The line went quiet for a few seconds. Then Leonard said, Please message me if you change your number or if you move from that friend's place. At least let me know how to find you. The call ended. Another day came. That morning, Mama Charity left early to buy food stuff for the restaurant. Before she left, she dropped some money on the kitchen table and instructed Natasha to give it to the landlord later that afternoon, explaining it was part of the house rent payment. As soon as Mama Charity was out of sight, Natasha snatched the money swiftly, hid it inside her bra, dressed up quickly, and left the house. She walked straight to her boyfriend, Chuka's place. Chuka was lying on the bed, absorbed in his phone. You brought it? He asked, not even looking up as she entered. Yes, she replied, pulling out the cash. Just manage it for now. Chuka grinned, quickly grabbing the money from her hand. You're my ride or die, baby. Natasha beamed, basking in his words. I know. She stayed there with him all day. Back at home, Faith cleaned the compound and patiently waited for Mama to return. Around evening, Mama Charity arrived, sweating and visibly tired from her errands. Natasha, she called out. There was no answer. Faith! Faith came out from the back. Yes, Mama. Where's Natasha? She hasn't come back since morning, Faith replied. Where's the landlord's money I left? Mama Charity pressed, her brow furrowed. Faith looked confused. I didn't see any money. Mama Charity walked to the table. The spot where she had left the money was empty. Faith, where is the money I dropped here this morning? She demanded, her voice rising. I don't know anything about money, Mama. I didn't see it, Faith insisted. Just then, Natasha walked in, dramatically feigning exhaustion. Where have you been? Mama Charity asked sharply, ignoring Natasha's act. Natasha looked surprised, as if she hadn't expected to be questioned. I went to see Chuka. Where's the money I left on this table? Mama Charity repeated, her gaze intense. Natasha paused for a brief moment, then quickly pointed, an accusing finger at Faith. She took it. I saw her checking it before I left. Maybe she hid it somewhere. Faith's eyes opened wide in disbelief. What? That's a lie. Keep lying, Natasha shouted, her voice laced with malice. I saw you. Don't pretend. Mama Charity turned to Faith, her face a mask of disappointment and anger. "You stole my money, the one meant for rent. Faith, how low can you go?" "I didn't steal anything," Faith cried, tears now streaming down her face. "Mama, believe me, I didn't even touch the table." "Shut up," Mama screamed, her patience completely gone. "You want to disgrace me completely. You gave all my food to a beggar, gave money to that same beggar, and now you've stolen the landlord's money." Faith shook her head vehemently. "Mama, I swear." "Don't swear." Mama cut her off, pointing a trembling finger towards the door. "I don't want to hear anything from you again. Get out of my sight." That evening, the landlord arrived, knocking on their door. "Good evening," he said, his voice flat. "Good evening, sir," Mama Charity replied nervously, her heart pounding. "Madam, you said you'd pay part of the rent today," the landlord stated, his eyes fixed on her. "Yes, sir," Mama Charity stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "Please give me till tomorrow morning. Something happened to the money." "No need," the landlord said firmly, shaking his head. "You've been promising for too long. I want you out by tomorrow." "Please, sir, out," he shouted, his voice ringing with finality. "I'm tired of hearing stories. Pack your things." The landlord stormed off, leaving them in stunned silence. Mama Charity sank to the floor, bursting into tears. "God, what kind of children did I raise?" she sobbed. Natasha, her arms folded, looked down at her mother with cold indifference. "I'm not sleeping outside with you two. I'm going to Chuka's house." Mama Charity looked up, her tear-streaked face contorted in disbelief. "What?" "You heard me?" Natasha retorted. "I'm going to stay with my man." "Please," Mama begged, her voice cracking. "Let us go with you just for tonight. I don't have anywhere to take Faith." Natasha scoffed, a cruel laugh escaping her lips. "Never. After all the insults, you called him jobless and useless. You said I was stupid for following him. Now you want to stay under his roof." "Please, my daughter," Mama Charity pleaded, desperation in her voice. "No, Mama," Natasha said coldly, shaking her head. "Sleep on the street with your favorite child. I'm done." She picked up her small bag and walked out, leaving Mama Charity on the floor, confused and speechless. Faith gently helped her mother up. "Let's go, Mama," she said softly. "Maybe we'll find somewhere." Carrying their few belongings, they began to walk slowly as the evening twilight began to deepen. A few streets away, they saw the old woman, Mama Rebecca, sitting on a low bench by the roadside. She looked up and saw them approaching. "Faith," she called out, her voice filled with surprise as she rose. "Mama Rebecca," Faith gasped, equally shocked to see her. "What happened?" Faith couldn't speak. She just shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. Mama Rebecca looked at the two of them, their clothes dusty, their bags light, their faces etched with exhaustion and despair. "What happened?" she repeated, her voice gentle. Faith finally managed to answer. "We were chased out of our house." "Where are you going?" Mama Rebecca asked. "We don't know," Faith confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Mama Rebecca paused for a second, her gaze fixed on them. Then a kind smile spread across her face. "You can come and stay with me for a while," she offered. Faith looked at her mother, who quickly nodded, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Yes, please," Mama Charity said quickly. "We just need somewhere to sleep tonight." "You're welcome," Mama Rebecca said warmly. "Let's go." They followed her, a newfound relief washing over them. Inside Mama Rebecca's place, the room was small but impeccably clean. She laid out mats on the floor, gave each of them a cup of water, and then sat down herself. "You can rest here," she said. "Thank you," Faith whispered, truly grateful. "You're a good girl," the old woman said, looking at Faith with kind eyes. "This world doesn't always reward kindness quickly, but it never forgets." Mama Charity sat quietly in a corner, her head bowed, feeling a profound sense of shame. Faith lay down and closed her eyes. For the first time in days, she felt a quiet peace settle over her. The next morning, Faith woke up early, the first rays of dawn painting the sky. She swept the compound in front of Mama Rebecca's small house with diligent care. The old woman sat quietly outside, watching her with a small, knowing smile on her face. Inside, Mama Charity sat silently on the mat, still consumed by shame. She had barely uttered a word since they had arrived. Her back ached from sleeping on the floor, but she didn't complain, knowing she had no right to. Just a few days ago, she had called this same old woman useless. Now she was a guest in her house. Later that morning, Mama Rebecca stepped inside and announced, "Let's eat something." "I can help you prepare something," Faith quickly offered, rising to her feet. "No need," Mama Rebecca replied, a gentle wave of her hand. "I already cooked." She brought out 3 plates of yam and sauce, giving one to each of them. "Thank you, Ma," Faith said, her voice filled with appreciation. "Thank you," Mama Charity added quietly, without looking up, her voice laced with humility. They ate in comfortable silence. After the meal, Mama Rebecca looked at them, her gaze gentle but direct. "What's your plan now?" Faith looked at her mother, who sighed deeply. I don't know. "I can't house you for long, Mama," Rebecca said calmly. "But you can stay for some days. Use the time to think." "Thank you, Ma," Mama Charity said again, her voice subdued. As Faith entered the small back corner where the water drum was, Mama Rebecca turned to Mama Charity. "Your daughter is a good girl." Mama Charity nodded slowly. "She is. You insulted her a lot," Mama Rebecca observed. Mama Charity looked down, her shame evident. "I know. I thought she was the problem. I didn't know it was Natasha." "Do you still think so?" Mama Rebecca pressed softly. "No. Faith has always been the kind one, but I was too blind to see it." Mama Rebecca said nothing else. She simply nodded and stood up. The next day, Faith sat quietly beside Mama Rebecca. "I want to go and look for a job," she announced. "You want to work?" the old woman asked, a hint of surprise in her voice. "Yes, even if it's just cooking or cleaning," Faith replied earnestly. "I don't want to sit and wait for help." Mama Rebecca nodded thoughtfully. "I know a rich man who is looking for a cook. If you're interested, I'll give you the address." "I'm interested," Faith said, her eyes lighting up. Mama Rebecca brought out a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to Faith. "Go with your mother. Tell them I sent you." "Thank you," Faith said, her heart filled with gratitude. She went inside and called her mother. "Mama, get ready. We are going to see someone." "Who?" her mother asked, curious. "Mama Rebecca gave us a job address," Faith explained. "A rich man needs a cook." They got dressed and left the house, the address in hand. They soon arrived at a sprawling compound guarded by 2 stern-looking security men at the gate. "Good afternoon," Faith greeted respectfully. "We came for a cooking job. Mama Rebecca sent us." One of the guards made a phone call. Moments later, a young man walked out of the building. He carried an air of wealth and calm confidence. "I'm Leonard," he introduced himself. "Are you the ones Mama Rebecca spoke about?" "Yes, sir," Faith replied, her voice firm. He nodded. Come with me. They followed him into the grand mansion and were led to a quiet sitting room, where they sat down. My mother said I should employ you, Leonard stated simply. Faith and her mother exchanged surprised glances. Your mother? Faith echoed. Yes, he replied. She said she likes you and I must employ you. Who is your mother, sir? Faith asked, a growing curiosity about this mysterious benefactor. Do we know her? He looked at them, a faint smile playing on his lips. I don't think so. You'll meet her tomorrow. He continued. If you're working here, you must stay here. All cooks live in this house. Faith immediately shook her head. I can't stay here. I can't leave Mama alone in that house. You will lose a job if you go, Leonard said, his tone unwavering. Faith stood up, her decision made. Then keep your job. I won't leave my mother. Leonard looked at her silently for a moment, observing her unwavering loyalty. Then a new expression crossed his face. Give me the address, he said. I'll send my driver to pick her up. She can stay here too. Later that day, Leonard sent his driver to the address Faith had provided. The driver picked up Mama Rebecca and brought her to the mansion. She said nothing, her expression unreadable. The driver took her directly to the red guest room, as Leonard had instructed. Faith and her mother were shown their own room by a kind housekeeper. It was neat, spacious, and calm. They changed into clean clothes, which the housekeeper had thoughtfully provided. Later they were served a plate of hot rice and stew. While they were eating, the housekeeper entered again, knocked on the door. Your mother has arrived, she said. Faith and her mother looked at each other, their eyes wide with surprise. Mama Rebecca? Faith asked, a question in her voice. Yes, she's here. She's in the red room. You'll see her tomorrow. The housekeeper then left them alone. Faith and her mother didn't speak for a while, the news settling heavily between them. Then, Mama Charity broke the silence. This is not ordinary. Something is going on. Faith nodded in agreement. I feel the same. But whatever it is, let's wait and see, her mother added, a newfound caution in her tone. Faith didn't reply, her gaze fixed on the door, lost in thought. In her own room, Mama Rebecca sat quietly, a small notebook open in her hands. She wrote, Faith gave up a job again just to protect her mother. She passed again. The next morning, a soft knock came at their door. A housekeeper entered and announced, Mr. Leonard said you both should join him for breakfast in the main dining room. Faith and her mother quickly got ready and followed her. The mansion was quiet, the polished floors shining, and the air smelled fresh and clean. They entered the grand dining room and saw Leonard already seated at the large, elegant table. Good morning, he said politely, a slight smile on his face. Good morning, sir, Faith and her mother replied in unison, their voices soft. Please, sit. They took their seats at the table. Just as they began to eat, another door opened, and Mama Rebecca walked in. Faith's spoon clattered onto her plate. Her mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Mama Rebecca! Leonard smiled warmly. Yes, this is my mother. Faith immediately stood up, her mind reeling. You're his mother? Mama Rebecca nodded slowly, her eyes twinkling. Yes, I'm not a poor woman. I'm not a beggar. My son owns this big house. I'm the one who brought you here. Mama Charity, still reeling from the shock, also stood, her face a mixture of confusion and profound shame. You mean, all this time? Yes, Mama Rebecca confirmed. I dressed like a poor beggar to see people's hearts. I wanted to find someone with real kindness. My son is wealthy. I didn't want him to marry someone who only loves money. I wanted to test the hearts of women." Faith was speechless, her mind struggling to process everything. "You passed the test," Mama Rebecca continued, her voice gentle but firm as she looked at Faith. "You gave me food when your sister insulted me. You gave me money when you had nothing. You left your house because you were accused of stealing. You chose your mother over riches. You gave up a job for love and loyalty." Leonard then spoke, his gaze on Faith. "Everything I did was based on her plan. I didn't know you either. I only trusted what she said about you, and everything she said was right." Mama Charity was still standing, tears welling in her eyes. "I called you useless. I mocked you." Mama Rebecca looked at her with understanding. "Yes, you judged me, but I forgive you." Tears rolled freely down Mama Charity's face. Faith looked at Mama Rebecca, a question in her eyes. "Why did you choose me?" "Because even when you were insulted and pushed away, you remained kind," Mama Rebecca explained, her voice full of admiration. "You defended your father. You protected your mother. You chose love over wealth." Faith cried quietly, tears of relief and emotion flowing freely. Leonard looked at her, his expression softening. "I would like you to work here not as a cook, but as my mother's personal assistant. You'll stay close to her, travel with her, help her manage some of her projects." Faith looked surprised, utterly overwhelmed. "Me?" "Yes," Mama Rebecca said, a warm smile on her face. "You deserve more, but we'll start small." Mama Charity, overcome with emotion and gratitude, knelt on the floor, her voice choked with sobs. "Thank you for everything. I failed as a mother, but today I'm grateful for this mercy." "Stand up," Mama Rebecca said gently. "This is a new beginning." That same day, across town, Natasha stood by a roadside food seller, her eyes fixated on her phone. She had just seen a WhatsApp status update from someone who worked as a cleaner in the mansion. The caption read, "The girl who used to serve food near the market is now staying in Olga Leonard's mansion." She opened the photo. It showed Faith and her mother, both dressed in fine clothes, smiling brightly beside a large, luxurious car. Natasha's face turned a violent shade of red with anger. "What?" she shouted, attracting the attention of those around her. "Faith is living in a mansion? That dirty girl!" She stormed off, heading directly to her boyfriend's place. Chuka was, as usual, lying on the bed, absorbed in his phone. Natasha barged in. "Chuka, wake up! You won't believe what I just saw." "What?" he asked, sitting up sluggishly. "Faith and my mother are now living in a mansion," Natasha exclaimed, pacing the small room agitatedly. "A mansion, Chuka! Big house, cars, rich people." "So?" he asked, unimpressed. "She didn't get that from the streets." "That man, that Leonard, that's the man she's working for," Natasha declared, her eyes glinting with a dangerous ambition. "We need to act fast." "What are you saying?" Chuka asked, confused. "We will go there," Natasha continued, her plan forming rapidly in her mind. "I'll make him fall for me. I'll wear the best clothes, act sweet and gentle. Then once he loves me, we will clean him out. Take his money. I know how to play men." Chuka laughed, a cynical sound. "You fall in love." "I don't need to love him," Natasha countered, a smirk on her face. "I just need him to love me." "You think your sister won't tell him who you are?" Chuka questioned, raising an eyebrow. "She won't dare," Natasha scoffed, dismissing the thought. This is risky. It's our chance to leave poverty, Natasha insisted, her voice gaining intensity. Faith doesn't deserve that life. She's a fool. This time I'll be smart. You just follow my plan. Chuka smiled, intrigued. All right, let's play this game. They sat together, beginning to formulate their scheme. Natasha meticulously wrote out every detail. She would wear borrowed clothes from her friend, change her name to Tasha Williams, say she was looking for a cleaning job, and act humble. I'll start tomorrow, she said, confident in her deception. Chuka nodded. We finish what we start. Back at the mansion, Faith and her mother sat quietly in their luxurious room, still processing the day's events. Mama, can you believe everything? Faith asked, her voice filled with awe. I still feel like I'm dreaming. She was watching us the whole time, Mama Charity murmured, still somewhat bewildered. And you were the one she chose. You deserve it, Mama Charity added, a deep sense of pride in her voice. Faith shook her head. It's not about deserving. It's just grace. There was a soft knock on the door. Leonard stepped in, a warm smile on his face. Sorry to disturb you both. No problem, sir, Faith replied, her heart fluttering slightly in his presence. Leonard held out a small brown envelope. There's some money here for your personal needs, clothes, hair, shoes. You now work in a big place, so you should look the part. Faith opened her mouth to speak, perhaps to object, but Leonard gently interrupted her. No arguments, he added. You've earned it. Thank you, sir, Faith managed to say, her voice soft with gratitude. Leonard looked at her for a moment, his gaze lingering, then smiled faintly. See you at dinner? He then left the room. Mama Charity turned to her daughter, a knowing look on her face. Do you think he likes you? Faith looked away, a blush creeping up her neck. Mama, don't act like you don't see the way he looks at you, her mother insisted, a mischievous glint in her eye. He just respects me, Faith mumbled. Maybe, Mama Charity conceded. But respect can grow into something more. The next morning, Mama Rebecca called Faith and her mother into the elegant sitting room. I want to take you both somewhere, she said, her tone hinting at a surprise. They followed her without asking questions, intrigued by her mysterious invitation. When they reached the location, Faith and her mother were astonished. Her mother were surprised. It was a beautiful, well-built house in a peaceful area. It wasn't as big as Leonard's mansion, but it was classy, calm, and elegant. This is my house, Mama Rebecca said, a warm smile on her face. Faith and her mother looked around, speechless, taking in the exquisite surroundings. I bought it years ago. This is where I live when I'm not staying with Leonard. I came here in disguise when I first met you. They nodded slowly, still trying to absorb the revelation. Mama Rebecca turned to them, her eyes sparkling. I'll be 70 in 2 weeks. I want to celebrate it here. Faith smiled warmly. That's a big day, Mama. Congratulations in advance. Thank you, Mama Rebecca replied. My son wants me to do it at his mansion. But I said, no, I celebrated here last year and I'll celebrate here again this year. It's beautiful, Mama Charity said, genuinely impressed. Yes, Mama Rebecca agreed. And I want you both to help me. You'll be my cooks for the event. You'll also help me with the plans, decorations, food lists, shopping, everything. We'd be honored, Mama, Faith replied, her heart filled with joy at the trust placed in them. Thank you. They all shared a happy smile. Just a few minutes later, the doorbell rang. One of the housekeepers opened the door, and a young woman stepped in. It was Natasha. She looked calm, well-dressed, and soft-spoken, a stark contrast to her usual demeanor. Her hair was neatly done, and her makeup was light, subtly enhancing her features. She smiled politely. "Good afternoon, sir," she said to Leonard, who had just walked into the room. "I came to apply for a cleaning job." Leonard looked at her, a slight frown of curiosity on his face. "A cleaning job?" "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice demure. "I've done cleaning before. Big companies, hotels, even private homes." Leonard nodded slowly. "I don't have a full-time cleaning job now, but I do need someone for the next 2 weeks. My mother is planning her 70th birthday, and I need extra help here at the house." Natasha's smile widened. "That's perfect, sir. I can do it. I already have someone helping with her preparations," Leonard continued, looking towards Faith and her mother. "But if you're okay with a temporary job, then you can join." "Yes, sir." "Thank you so much," Natasha exclaimed, her gratitude seemingly boundless. He turned to the housekeeper. "Show her to the staff quarters. She starts tomorrow." "Yes, sir," the housekeeper replied. Natasha bowed slightly, her eyes still on Leonard. "I'm really grateful, sir." Leonard nodded and then walked away. As Natasha followed the housekeeper down the hallway, her eyes meticulously scanned everything. The grand staircase, the shining polished tiles, the expensive art on the walls. Her plan was now officially in motion. When she entered her designated room, she waited for the housekeeper to leave, then locked the door and pulled out her phone. She quickly sent a voice note to Chuka. "I'm in." Chuka replied immediately. "Good. Just make sure you act like a saint. Let him notice you." Natasha dropped the phone and looked at herself in the mirror, a dark smirk forming on her lips. "They left me behind," she whispered to her reflection. "But now I'm inside. Faith will regret ever shining before me." The next morning, Natasha woke up early, dressed neatly in a simple, modest gown, making sure to look impeccably clean and humble. Then, she walked quietly to the kitchen, ready to begin her new role. She wanted to appear kind and serious, but in her heart, she had only one goal: to make Leonard notice her. By 9 a.m., Leonard walked down the stairs, dressed smartly. Pascal Amar, smartly in a white shirt and dark trousers, holding his phone in one hand. Natasha stood quietly, pretending to clean a flower vase near the staircase, carefully observing him. He walked past her, his gaze straight ahead. He didn't stop. He didn't look at her, not even for 1 second. Natasha turned slightly, waiting for him to say good morning or ask a question. Nothing. Leonard passed as if she didn't exist. She clenched her teeth slightly, but kept her forced smile. "It's just day one," she whispered to herself. "He will notice me soon." In the evening, she made sure she was walking past his office, carrying a tray of tea, precisely when he emerged with a document in his hand. She greeted him, her voice dripping with sweetness. "Good evening, sir." He walked past, didn't stop, didn't answer, didn't even glance in her direction. This time, Natasha stood frozen, a flicker of raw frustration in her eyes. She waited a few seconds, then rushed into the corridor behind the kitchen and immediately dialed Chuka. "He didn't look at me," she whispered, her voice tight with disbelief. "All day, not even once." Chuka replied, "Are you sure?" "Yes," she hissed. "He doesn't talk to me, doesn't ask questions, nothing." Then try harder, Chuka said, his voice calm. He's rich. He's probably used to women throwing themselves at him. Don't give up. You're there for 2 weeks. Okay, she said, defeated for the moment. I'll think of something else. That night, she stayed up, her mind racing. I need to make him talk to me somehow. That evening, Leonard sat in his office after a long day, picking up his phone to call his mother. "Mama," he said as soon as she answered, "I wanted to inform you that I hired a cleaner just for 2 weeks to help around the house." There was silence on the line for a few seconds. Then, his mother's voice came, sharp and clear. "A cleaner for what?" "Just for general cleaning, Mama. You're already using Faith and her mother for your birthday preparation, and I didn't want to bother them. The house was getting a little too dusty." "You should have called Faith," Mama Rebecca snapped, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Mama, I didn't want to stress her." "She's not a stranger in this family, Leonard. You don't hire outsiders when we have people we trust." "I understand, Mama, but—" "No buts. I want that cleaner gone. I don't want strangers walking around your house anyhow." Leonard stayed quiet, listening. Mama Rebecca continued, "Tomorrow I'm sending Faith over. I need her to help me pick something from the house anyway." "All right, Mama." "I want her to check the house properly, and once she comes, that girl must leave." Leonard sighed softly. "Yes, Mama." "And Leonard?" "Yes." "Let me remind you. Nobody stole from this family. Nobody served me like a queen. Nobody stood for the truth like Faith and her mother. I don't want any new person bringing bad luck into our peace." Leonard nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "I'll take care of it." "Good. Call me when she leaves." She ended the call abruptly. Leonard slowly dropped the phone and leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. Faith arrived at Leonard's mansion around 10 a.m., just as Mama Rebecca had instructed. The house was quiet, bathed in the morning light, the floors gleaming. She went upstairs to Mama Rebecca's room to pick up the items her mother had sent her for. Meanwhile, Natasha was in the kitchen, diligently wiping the fridge and pretending to be hard-working. She had no idea Faith had arrived. Upstairs, Faith began gathering the items Mama Rebecca had sent her for: a box of decorations, some clothes, and a folder filled with party plans. Just then, the door behind her opened. She turned around. Leonard walked in and paused when he saw her. "Faith." "Good morning, sir," she said with a small smile. "Don't call me sir again," he replied softly, a gentle warmth in his voice. She laughed gently, a shy blush rising to her cheeks. He came closer, his eyes locking with hers. "I've been waiting for the right time to say this, but I can't wait anymore." Faith looked confused. "Say what?" Leonard took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. "I love you, Faith. From the first day I saw you, I've met so many people, but you are different. You are kind. You are strong. You are everything I didn't know I needed. Please, will you marry me?" Faith stood still, utterly shocked, her heart pounding. "Leonard," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm not going to lie. I feel the same. I just didn't know if I should say it." He smiled, a radiant, joyful smile. "You feel the same?" "Yes." Then, without another word, they kissed. It was calm, sweet, and deep. He held her gently, and for a moment the world around them stood still. They pulled back slowly, a shared smile on their faces. Faith, still breathless, remembered her task. "Let me go and check on the new cleaner Mama said you hired. She wants me to report how the house is doing." "She might be in the kitchen," he said. I told Mama I hired her for just 2 weeks. Faith nodded. I'll be right back. She went down the hallway and turned toward the kitchen. As she entered, she froze. Standing there, mop in hand, was Natasha. Faith's eyes widened in disbelief. Natasha? Natasha turned slowly, dropping the mop with a clatter. Her eyes were sharp, and her smile was a thin, fake line. What are you doing here? Faith asked, bewildered. Natasha rolled her eyes. What kind of stupid question is that? Of course, I work here now. You work here? Faith repeated, truly shocked. Yes, Natasha said, proudly puffing out her chest. And guess what? Leonard and I are dating. We're in love. Faith stepped back, shaking her head vehemently. No! Never! Not my Leonard! Natasha laughed, a harsh, dismissive sound. You're Leonard. You think a rich man like that would want a market girl like you? Keep dreaming. I'm the one he notices now. You can go and tell Mama all you want. Faith clenched her fists, her voice trembling with anger. You lied your way in here. You used a fake name. You planned something evil. Oh, please, Natasha hissed, waving her hand dismissively. I'm smarter than you. Always have been. And now you'll leave. Nobody wants a poor beggar pretending to be holy. Then, a voice came from behind them, cold and firm. What's going on here? It was Leonard. Faith turned quickly. She's my sister, she said, her voice clear despite her distress. Her name is Natasha. She didn't come here by chance. She came with a plan to trick you and steal from you. She said both of you are dating. Leonard turned to Natasha, his expression unreadable. Is this true? Natasha blinked, her fake confidence crumbling. Sir, I can explain. He shook his head, cutting her off. No need. You lied about your name. You lied about your past. You came here to destroy peace. She tried to speak again, but he raised his hand, his voice firm and unwavering. Get out now, Natasha. Please, she begged, tears starting to form. I said out! Security! 2 guards rushed in immediately. Escort this woman out, Leonard said firmly, and listen to me clearly. She must never come. Close to this house again. The guards grabbed her by the arms. You both will regret this. You will regret everything, Natasha screamed, thrashing against their grip. No, Leonard replied calmly, his eyes cold and unwavering. You will regret thinking evil thoughts and acting on them. As the guards dragged her out, her curses echoing down the hallway, Faith stood still, a deep sadness settling over her. Leonard turned to her, his expression softening. Thank God you came when you did. Faith nodded, her voice quiet. I told you, she doesn't change. He reached out and held her hand, his touch reassuring. You saved me. Natasha arrived home that evening, dragging her small bag behind her, her body slumped in defeat. Chuka was lying on the bed, nonchalantly eating soaked gari and ground nuts. He looked up at her, his face devoid of a smile. You're back early, he said with a straight face. She didn't answer. He sat up. Why are you looking like that? Don't tell me you failed. Natasha wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Leonard found out. He threw me out. His guards warned me never to come near his house again. Chuka stood up quickly, his eyes wide. What? What did you do? I don't know, she shouted, frustrated. It was that stupid Faith. She came to the house, exposed me, and turned everything upside down. Chuka paced the room, his fury building. So, after all the plans, the acting, the new name, everything, you couldn't even get him to look at you for more than 5 seconds? Chuka, I tried, she pleaded. No, you failed because you're stupid, useless. Natasha stared at him, stung by his words. I did my best. I cleaned the house. I acted humble. I smiled like a fool every day. And he still didn't fall for you. What a waste of time, he hissed, turning away from her in disgust. She sat down on the floor, weak and hopeless, and whispered, I'm pregnant. Chuka stopped pacing abruptly. What did you just say? She looked up at him, tears welling in her eyes. I said, I'm pregnant. He stared at her, his eyes wide with disbelief. Pregnant? Yes. He laughed bitterly, a harsh, humorless sound. Pregnant for who? For you, she said softly, her voice barely audible. He shook his head, retreating a step. Never, not me. Chuka, I haven't been with anyone else. He pointed an accusing finger at her. Liar! You think I don't know you? Spoiled child of a poor food seller. You follow any man with money. That's not true, she shouted, tears now pouring down her face. I stayed with you even when you had nothing. You stayed because no other man wanted you, he snapped. Now you want to pin a child on me? Never. It's your child, Chuka. I swear it. He came closer, his face grim. Get rid of it. What? She gasped. I said go and remove it. She stood up, her body trembling, tears streaming down her face. No, I'm keeping my baby. Chuka's voice rose, filled with rage. You think I'll let you trap me with a child? You better leave this house now before I do something crazy. Later that night, Natasha was lying inside the room, weak and utterly hopeless. Her eyes were swollen from hours of crying. She held her belly protectively and whispered, I will protect you, my baby, no matter what happens. Hours passed in the darkness. Suddenly the door opened. It was Chuka. He stepped in, a soft smile on his face, holding a bottle of orange juice. Baby, he said softly. Natasha sat up quickly, wary. Why are you here again? He walked closer, settling beside her on the bed. I came to say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. I was just angry. She didn't reply, her guard still up. Chuka continued, I love you, Natasha. I truly do. I was shocked when you told me about the pregnancy. But now, I've thought about it. I want you to keep it. She looked at him, tears filling her eyes again, but this time they were mixed with a fragile hope. Are you serious? Yes, he replied, nodding. I've decided. I'm calling my people tomorrow. I'll tell them I want to marry you. We'll do your bride price and everything properly. You and our baby are my future. Natasha smiled in immense relief, her tears drying. Thank you, Chuka. I thought you had abandoned us. I'll never leave you, he said, his voice soft and reassuring. Here, drink this. I bought it for you. It's fresh. He handed her the bottle of orange juice. She took it, smiled, and drank it all. Minutes later, she began to feel strange. Chuka, my head, it's turning. She tried to stand up but fell back onto the bed, her body feeling heavy. Chuka, what's happening to me? But Chuka didn't answer. He stood up, his face panicked, as Natasha's body began to shake uncontrollably. Then suddenly she stopped moving. He touched her arm. It was cold. He leaned down to her chest. No heartbeat. She was gone. He stepped back, breathing fast, his eyes wide with horror. No, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to end the pregnancy. He quickly picked up his bag and ran out of the room in fear, leaving her lifeless body behind. The next morning, the landlord came to the door. He had been asking for rent for over a month and was tired of the excuses. He knocked. No response. He pushed the door open. Then he screamed. Natasha's lifeless body was still on the bed, cold and still. The police were called immediately, and an investigation began. Neighbors reported seeing Chuka run out of the room the night before. The police searched everywhere for him. 3 days later, Chuka was caught trying to hide in another town. He was brought back. After long questioning, he confessed. "I mixed something in the juice," he said, his voice trembling. "I just wanted her to lose the pregnancy. I didn't want her to be unalived." But it was too late. He was charged with murder and subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment. 1 month later, in a beautiful grand wedding hall, Faith and Leonard stood side by side exchanging vows. She wore a lovely white gown that shimmered in the light, and he, a sharp black suit. Mama Rebecca sat proudly in the front row, a wide smile of joy gracing her face. Mama Charity stood beside her, tears of happiness streaming down her cheeks. The pastor's voice resonated through the hall. "You may now kiss your bride." Leonard leaned down and kissed Faith softly, a tender moment that sealed their union. The guests clapped and cheered, celebrating their love. Faith and Leonard finally started their new life together, far away from lies, pain, and betrayal. They lived happily ever after.